there are things that ordinary people can use to detect when somebody's lying to them.
Yes. The most important thing is to look for something that's not their typical, something that's off the baseline. That can be in business, kids, your marriage. It doesn't matter. It goes all the way across the line.
Pamela Meyer, one of the foremost experts, if not the foremost expert in lie detection, deception detection. The average person, I think, has no idea how much lying goes on and how able they are to spot that. So how much do people lie?
Well, we lie a lot. I mean, some studies say we lie up to 200 times a day. Some studies say we lie only 5 times a day. The way I break it up is there are high-stakes lies and low-stakes lies. And so we navigate social dignity all day long with white lies. Honey, you don't look fat in that. That's okay. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I just fished that email out of my spam folder. Not a problem. The high stakes lies are less common, but they're very high stakes and they're significant. So lies like, that affect maybe who to marry or what house to buy or who to go to work with and so forth. Those are very high stakes lies that we have to really avoid.
Is there a list of things that cause people to lie? Because you say people lie, you say as many as 200 times a day. What are the motivators? What cause people to lie?
First of all, everyone lies. And so it's really important to understand what motivates someone to lie. If you want to get to the truth, you have to understand their motivation. For the most part, we lie to avoid conflict. We lie sometimes to manipulate someone, to have power over someone. We lie to gain the admiration of others. We lie oftentimes to protect privacy. So not all lies are necessarily for terrible reasons. There are times when somebody will lie simply to gain power over another person or to manipulate the situation, but they're kind of offensive and defensive lies, and not all of them are terrible.
One of the things that I have focused on from a psychological standpoint is empathy, warmth, and genuineness.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference between being genuine and being cruel. Like, for example, let's say a guy goes up to a girl in a club and says, "Would you like to dance?" She can say, "No." That's genuine. She doesn't want to dance. Or she could give a fulsome answer and say, "I wouldn't dance with you in 100 years if you were the last man on earth. You smell funny. You look funny. I would drop dead first." That's also the truth. But is that a lie by omission to leave all of that out?
No, not at all. I mean, you're having a dinner party and the one person who sucks all the air out of the room and dominates the whole thing calls you up and says, "I heard you having a dinner party. Oh, I'm so sorry. I must have the wrong email address." You still got to probably invite them to the dinner party.
Yeah.
So there's social dignity and there's appropriate boundaries in the world. And honestly, a lot of people use the excuse of authenticity as a way to act in very aggressive ways towards each other. And I don't think it's helpful to anybody.
You probably know them as the behavioral panel experts. And I'm talking about Scott Roush, Greg Hartley, Mark Bowden, and Chase Hughes. These guys are the absolute body language, nonverbal cue experts. And Scott, I'm going to introduce each of them individually. So this is going to go for a minute and then we're going to talk. But he's a behavior analyst and body language expert. He's been involved in interrogation of terrorists. He's a cognitive neuroscience guy and really is an expert on getting to the truth, spotting deception with criminals. He holds multiple certificates in advanced interrogation training and has been trained alongside FBI, Secret Service, U.S. military, DOD. His extensive training and education and practice of nonverbal communication have made him the go-to guy, just expert and consultant to law enforcement as well as heads of companies all over the country, attorneys, executives. They all look to him. He's also a Grammy-nominated producer based in Nashville and has the Nashville Entrepreneur Center where he heads the EC's pitch department and works with startups and new entrepreneurs. His body language Frankenstein presentations and talks have been educating and entertaining audiences nationally and internationally. Greg Hartley is an expert interrogator, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it. He's a human behavior consultant and can speak to special ops, interrogation, terrorists, and criminals. He's worked and has honors with the United States Army. More recently, it has drawn organizations such as the Defense Intelligence Agency, Navy SEALs, federal law enforcement agencies. He's worked with national television. They seek his insights about how to as well as why. He's in Atlanta, Georgia. He's written 7 books along with a co-author, Mary Ann Carnage. Mark Bowden is expert in body language and human behavior and communication, and not just on reading people, but in telling people how to project what they want, to present themselves in a way to build trust and credibility. He was voted the #1 body language professional in the world. He's very passionate about giving people the most influential and persuasive communication techniques they need to stand out and win over individuals or audience. He's inspiring, energetic, engaging, and really entertaining. He's done a lot of memorable talks, TEDx. He's got a great YouTube channel, reaches millions of people. He works with some of the top organizations in the world: Spotify, Dell, Viacom, Toyota, Walmart, Nestle, just all over the place. Chase Hughes is a behavioral science expert. He can speak to persuasion, profiling, nonverbal analysis, and deception detection. You're just not going to get it past him. He's tops in interrogation. He's founder and CEO of Applied Behavior Research and is a leading behavior expert and author of the 3-year #1 best-selling book on persuasion, influence, and behavior profiling, The Ellipsis Manual. Now, he teaches military units, intelligence organizations. He's also been involved in one of my favorite things, which is jury selection, people reading, human intelligence, and he is also the creator of the Pre-Violence Indicators Index, which is designed to alert personnel to pre-attack behaviors. And this is something that really saves lives. He attended a military academy before joining the Navy in '98. He now lives in Virginia Beach, but he's got Texas roots, so that makes him near and dear to my heart. In other words, we're talking to the best of the best. There are so many myths out there that mislead people. I mean, they get some of this pop psych where, somebody's lying if they're looking up to the left or right or, blah, 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 blah. There are some things that people can look at to determine whether somebody is lying or whether they're not.
One of the first things you're going to look for are the differences in comfort and discomfort. That's basically the bottom line there. And when you see someone going from comfort to discomfort, you're going to see things. We'll all cover different things about this, but I'll cover the adapters on this. And so what you'll see is that person who's becoming uncomfortable, as they try to get rid of some of this built-up stress and or tension, they'll start doing little things like this with their hand, or they'll chew on their mouth, or they may, just for a second, push their lips together, not in the disappearing lips, as or a stress mouth, but you'll see things where they'll move their shoulders a little bit to try to almost massage themselves, or they will massage themselves. You'll see them push on their face, facial denting. And these things get rid of that built-up stress or tension. That's one of the first things, I think, out of the baseline we all start looking for.
I'll take it a different path: verbal and vocal cues. A person who tries to negotiate the question, or who tries to condition the question, or takes longer to get to yes or no, that's a good indicator that something is wrong. If they normally say yes or no, you ask them a complex question, they ramble before they say yes or no. That's distancing, verbal distancing. That's a great indicator. There are places where people hide time. I taught resistance to interrogation, and a good portion of it's tied to that. Things like saying "and then." It means I just jump over a period of time. Doesn't mean they're lying. It means that there's an opportunity for a lie there, an opportunity to miss something. And then word choice changes, how the sentence is structured. There's a ton of things in there we can teach, and we do try to walk on the show. And then the sound of their voice, cadence changes. If something blips, it's an indicator. You should pay attention when something changes, because something's changing inside their little knot. And that's what's going on.
let me take it in this direction. So there are parts of your body that are probably more vulnerable than others. If you think about the carotid arteries, the windpipe here, and just under the armpits here and around the ribs here, they're not well protected. There's some delicate organs there that if they get damaged, you're probably in big trouble. So you notice when people start getting uncomfortable about what they're saying, you might see the chin drop in. We call that turtling, because they're actually protecting this carotid artery and windpipe there. You'll see them tuck in here so they can't get attacked under here. Now, of course, they know they're not being attacked by an actual physical object, but their instinct doesn't know that. Their instinct is just under threat and pressure, and it shows up as they protect some of those delicate organs. Chase, you've probably got another way you can take this.
Yeah, and please keep in mind that there's no such thing as deceptive body language. What we're looking for is changes to baseline and things that indicate stress or fear. And a lot of this stuff is very research-based, and I'll just give one really good one that I see very regularly, that the less pronouns a person uses in a statement or a response to a question, the more likely it is to be deceptive. And second, if they pause longer than they normally do in that conversation, then that's also very solidly backed by research, both of those things.
The mind virus.
My favorite.
I've seen interrogators mess this up so much because they actually bluff, and you can't bluff when you're doing it. And there's a thin line there, right? So people understand planning a mind virus is like saying, is there any reason somebody would have told me they saw you on that corner last night at 10 o'clock? Okay, that's planning a mind virus. Bluffing is saying,
one of the
we
neighbors.
know. We know you were.
we know you were on that corner last night because a neighbor said so. If they weren't there, you've lost control of the interview.
Yeah, totally.
You've lost all momentum now because you lied and you're caught in a lie.
Remember, interrogation's about approaches. It's about psychology and and one of the levers we called We Know All is we come in with a file. It looks like we know a bunch of stuff, and we would then claim to know something. And I would do exactly that. There's any reason you would have been on the corner, boom, boom. And I would always teach my guys, the number one failure mode is that last step you take too far. You go from we know all to we don't know.
So even a folder, just a notebook or a folder full of random forensic looking documents that says DNA or traffic cameras or something like that on it, that folder in itself can sit there and just be a mind virus throughout the entire interview. Yep. And one thing with the mind virus, I think it's important to set it up. So like if there's a murder in a neighborhood, I want to set this up really, really carefully to where it has maximum power. So I'm going to say, John, thanks for coming in today. I'm really glad you're here. We've got officers ever since last night canvassing the entire neighborhood, talking to every single person that they can. And they've got a ton of information that's just flooding in right now. So I'm going to set it up there. Yep. Yeah, the Ring doorbell camera videos. There's a ton of stuff coming in right now. And John, I do like you as a person. But please, I want you to think very, very carefully before you answer this question. And then I'll throw the mind virus question out. And I think it's got a lot more punch.
Oh,
when you set it up.
You have
like
to
that.
frame it.
We,
sure.
we talk about that, and we compare. It's like comparing motorcycles or cars. I think about what we've got in our packets. I call it the thud factor. The louder that thing is, boy, the more power it has because you walk in, boom, and you throw it on the thing, and they may not see it right then, but they know something big is in there, and you'll just talk, and they'll see their name on this and a bunch of files in there.
I had Burger King coupons in mine.
Well,
at one point.
Well, it's taught all over the world. That technique is taught all over
and
the
those
world.
little, even back when there were DVDs were big, I still got these, and you can just peel the tape off and then put whatever it is, their full name, first, middle, and last name, put it in that little pile too, and bang, put it down on there and wrap it in a little plastic and have it sitting there. And you don't have to say anything about it, but they'll be looking at it. I don't ever put it in their reach where they can reach and get it, but they'll look at it as you're talking to them, and as they're thinking, they'll get loose from you and they'll just look at it. And say,
you get one of these as they're talking, like, I guess we go over there, I guess like every week or two, and you'll see them they see their name on there.
Susan Constantine, one of the world's leading authorities on body language.
What I do is I analyze human behavior. So I'm watching different gestures and decoding those meanings and reading your facial expressions of emotions and try to understand what you might be thinking or feeling. And then combining that with your words. What are you saying? What is decoding those words and coming up with, what does that actually mean behind those words? So it's kind of all encompassing.
Well, let's talk about how people can use that every day, because, parents have kids, wives have husbands, husbands have wives, people have bosses, they have coworkers. And what I like to do is give people information where if they listen to us, they listen to you and me here, then they have an edge that other people don't have. Let's give them some tools and things that they can use in their everyday life. People always say that 7% of all communication is nonverbal. That's true at the hello level, but of course that goes down a lot as you get more data with words and everything. Now the words start to have more power, but still nonverbals are a huge part of communication, right?
Yes, they are, because reading nonverbal cues is nothing more than your emotions being revealed through your nonverbal movements. So whatever you're thinking and processing is going to be exhibited through your nonverbal cues, nonverbal movements.
People used to ask me when I was at Courtroom Sciences, can I really read a jury and what they're thinking or feeling at a particular time? And I was like, of course. I mean, it's like they're screaming from the jury box. If you have nothing to do but sit there all day and watch these people and how they respond when the plaintiff's lawyer gets up, how they respond when the defendant's lawyer gets up, when a certain witness is on the stand, and you really read them. First you get a baseline, then you see how they depart from that baseline from different people. It's astounding how much information they give you, and then you debrief them after the trial and you find out if you were right or wrong. And they truly are screaming at you non-verbally from the jury box. So it is true.
It is true. And the one thing, you mentioned everything is I'm totally in sync with that, because I also am a trial consultant and I watch juries. And also what's important is in everyday life is that people are giving these cues off and then people are not picking them up and they're making decisions based on just what they're saying, and they're not picking up on those little nuances that gave you such valuable information. And the words, you find out that they're in opposition to what their body language was saying. So body language, in my opinion, is key to communication.
Why do you think some people just don't read the room? People that are maybe talking at dinner or going to a party or something, you see them talking and they just don't read the room. People are rolling their eyes or looking for the bathroom. It's like, how do I get away from this? And they don't get it. Seriously, how do people not read the room?
Yeah, in fact, I was having a conversation with a gentleman that was just in here. We're talking about most people don't realize is that communication is a lot like volleying a ball back and forth playing tennis, which is your favorite sport. So communication goes back and forth, and then all you're doing is listening to this boring person and not picking up that their eyes are rolling back in their head. And it's because they're thinking about something else. They're not tuned in. And you know what I find is that, especially with social media today, that they're not focused on face-to-face communication. They're down like this all the time. So
we're getting lazy at it, right?
Yes, getting very lazy at it.
If you could tell somebody how to read the room, it should be obvious if people are losing their audience. Are they that narcissistic?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And there's also people that are just attention seekers, right? So they're types of personalities that they feed off from all of that excitement. All the attention's got to be on me. Listen to me, because I am so self-important. I have so many important things to say, and then everybody should listen. And they're not noticing that when people are standing around in a circle, that their angles of their body are already faced towards the exit sign, or they want to go out the door, right? Yeah. And their faces have become very flat, or they've got that very phony, artificial smile that they're trying to be cordial and shaking their head, yet they're looking around the room just trying to figure out a way to exit out.
What do you think are the minimal encouragers that people should look for to tell whether somebody's really interested in what they're talking about?
If somebody's really interested in what they're talking about, is they're leaning forward and they have their head tilted and they're bobbing their head 2 or 3 times like, yes, I hear you. And they're making really good direct eye contact. It's not a stare, but you find that when people are really interested, they're leaning in. They're tilting their head. They're in this active listening position. Their body language, their body language is tilted forward. So they're moving in towards your proxemics, into your space, because they want more. If they're leaning back or to the side, they're not. If they're leaning to the side, they may be analyzing. If they're leaning back, they're completely disinterested.